Do you remember the Tarantino? Earlier this year, we tried to coin a new phrase to describe something that's been going on in D.C. In Washington right now, every significant thing that's come up in the Senate takes 60 votes to pass instead of just a majority, instead of 50. It used to be that a few important things would be forced to 60 votes, a few matters of principle, a few things the minority really felt strongly about. But now, for the first time ever in our country's history, everything takes 60 votes to pass. Everything. Every single significant thing takes a supermajority of 60 votes. It is outrageous. It is unprecedented. But the amount of time it took me to just explain that and to show our filibuster graph means that even though this 60 votes on everything situation is unprecedented and a small d democratic disaster, a huge change in our constitutional system of government that no one debated, that none of us signed up for, that is strangling our ability as a nation to deal with the problems that face us as a nation, even though the 60 votes on an everything change is huge, it is also boring. And therefore difficult to get people to talk about it. Hence our attempt to make it a little more exciting by calling it the Tarantino, because, you know, it kills bills. Anyway, it didn't exactly work. It didn't catch on. But if you are one of the many people who nevertheless understood the outrage of this random anti-democratic thing stopping the Senate from being able to do what the Senate's supposed to do, then boy howdy do I have another one for you. I want you to meet the secret hold. It's like the Tarantino, but it's even less rational. If you want to stop a nomination or a piece of legislation in the Senate, one senator can just personally, secretly put a hold on it. You don't have to make a principled argument about why you want to stop the thing. Nobody finds out who you are while you're doing it. You just get to blackball anything. One person, for any reason, or for no reason at all. And nobody's allowed to know who the person is who's doing the blackballing, and they never have to explain themselves. In a democracy. This week, a Washington Post editorial said, quote, "Of all the maddening practices that clog the arteries of the national legislature, the most infuriating may be the Senate institution known as the secret hold." A New York Times editorial this week called it an insidious tradition that the Senate was supposed to have dropped, and said now the games need to stop. This is such a rank, indefensible, vestigial rule that nobody really defends it. Senator Claire McCaskill of Missouri has been one of the senators who's been working to try to get rid of secret holds. Here's how she explained the situation yesterday.
We have different kinds of senators here. We have some that are kind of feeling like they're being marched to the gallows as they grudgingly support cleaning up secret holds. We have others that want to pound their chests and shout from the rooftops about trying to get rid of secret holds. And we have others that are hiding in the creeks, the crevices, the little bitty tiny dark places that are trying to keep secret holds without anybody knowing who they are.
Except we do know who they are. In this case, they're Jim DeMint, Republican of South Carolina. Ron Wyden and Chuck Grassley, a Democrat and a Republican, introduced legislation together to get rid of secret holds. They expected it would finally go through. We'd finally get rid of this thing once and for all, since a huge majority of senators said they would consent to getting rid of it. But at the last minute, with no warning, Jim DeMint decided to block that bill. What's his argument for keeping secret holds? For not getting rid of what basically everyone agrees is a totally indefensible anti-democratic process that no one believes is the way government should work? What is his argument for being the man who saved secret holds? True to form, this is so perfect. Jim DeMint says actually he can't argue in favor of secret holds. He's against them. He personally thinks they should be gotten rid of. And he therefore killed the bill that would have done that. Ta-da! A perfect solution. Defending something completely indefensible that actually harms the country, and then just simply refusing to acknowledge that you've done so. Refusing to explain why you've done so. There couldn't be a more perfect way for the secret hold to be kept alive. Joining us now is David Corn, Washington Bureau Chief of Mother Jones and columnist for PoliticsDaily.com. Mr. Corn, thanks very much for being here. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Maybe we should call it the Hitchcock.
Oh, because it's, you know? but there's no
it's
well,
dark,
I guess there's
it's
a little
secret,
there's
it's
a little
creepy.
there's a little intrigue. It just makes me think about showers or birds, in which case.
Okay. Just trying to help.
Well, getting rid of the secret hold supposedly has all this bipartisan support. Why can't they get rid of it?
Well, the thing about secret holds, the thing about the Senate is every senator wants their own prerogatives. And the secret hold gives any individual senator the power to bring the Senate to its knees. They can, trade that ability to get other things. There are 52 or so now Obama appointees, nominees, who are being held back by secret holds. And they're not being held back because senators have any beefs with these particular nominees, but they're trying to leverage other things they're trying to get. Maybe a $20 million rec center for their home state or something. And so it's a very, very powerful tool that's been around for several decades. So a lot of, my guess is, even though Jim DeMint is the lead guy on this, there are probably a lot of guys in the cloakroom saying, "We're with you, Jim, just in secret, but good work out there." And so there are a lot of, the filibuster, there are a lot of rules in the Senate. The Senate is a different beast than the House. In the House, there's a lot more party discipline, and the majority can control the length of debates, how many amendments. In the Senate, basically any senator can come along and offer any amendment at any point in time. You have to have some unanimous consent agreements to move ahead, and that gives anyone the power to be Dr. No.
But I can argue in favor of minority power in the Senate. I can even argue in favor of individual senator power. I mean, the idea of the filibuster is not something that on its face I think should be eliminated. I think the abuse of the filibuster should be prevented, and if it can't be prevented, then it should be eliminated. But you should try to keep it. It makes sense. I think one senator being able to hold things up or being able to raise principled objections, especially if they relate to their home state or something like that, I can make an argument for that, whether or not I'm in favor for it. What is any reasonable possible argument for them being able to do this secretly? It's the anonymity that I can't make a democratic argument for it.
You basically have to ask them, what don't you understand about checks and balances? I mean, this just goes back to, civics class, which I hope all of us took back in high school and middle school. I mean, if you can't hold, the whole principle of our government is accountability. That if one person has the power to do this, another person has the power to say, wait a second. And at least you have an argument and a debate about it between branches or even within a branch of government, such as the legislative branch. But you're absolutely right. Here you have somebody who can stop a popular bill, an important bill. Last I checked, we didn't have a person heading up the TSA, and you think these days that'd be kind of important because there was a hold, and this happens all the time. So they're not just holding up bills; they're preventing government from doing its job to protect us and safeguard the public interest. So if you're going to do that, you at least should have to put your name to it. And there was an attempt. Back in 1997, Trent Lott and Tom Daschle got together. That was when Daschle was majority leader and Trent Lott was minority leader, to block secret holds. And it lasted, I think, for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then it went back to the old ways. So it's possible to do something about this, but you got to get these guys in line. Maybe generationally it will shift.
I wonder if the generation, looking at some of the senators crusading on this now, I'm wondering if people like Claire McCaskill and Ron Wyden are going to be the ones who finally get it forced out. We will have to see. David Corn, Washington Bureau Chief of Mother Jones Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us, David.
Good to be with you.